Nice one.
Get my mic over a bit.
Still showing us starting 7 p.m.
Aye, 20 seconds behind.
What?
Hello and welcome to Hibs Talk. I'm your host as always, Gav. Joining me today is Stephen,
Yeah.
Craig,
All right.
and making his debut, Callum. Guys, how you getting on?
Next question, please.
No, yeah.
I tell you what, we'll start. How has your Sunday been, especially in comparison to
Still
your
showing
Saturday?
us starting 7 p.m.
Nice one.
Aye, 20 seconds behind.
What? Better. Went up Cotton Hill earlier for a wee
Hello
walk.
and welcome to Hibs Talk. I'm your host
Still
as always,
showing
Gav.
us.
Joining me
And
today
then,
is Stephen,
Um,
20 seconds behind. Craig,
Seen
What?
Easter
and making
Road
his debut,
in
Callum.
the
Guys,
distance,
how you getting on?
so got a
Hello
bit angry.
and welcome to Hibs Talk. I'm your
Next
host as always, Gav. Joining me today is Stephen,
Fair enough. Yeah.
Craig,
Everybody's so
and
positive
making his
today.
debut, Callum. Guys, how you getting on?
I was the same. Went for a walk this morning.
Next question, please.
But I never saw Easter Road, so I'm still in an alright mood. No, yeah.
I tell you what, we'll start.
I've not ventured out the door at all.
Sunday been, especially
Recovering from yesterday and Sunday roast, and then just watched an alright game of football there just now. So
cracking game of football, absolutely brilliant game of football. Very pleased. That was a bit of a saving grace. I'm glad. I know I've sort of kind of already told you guys about this, but I've had an absolute nightmare Sunday or nightmare weekend. Apart from like the Man United game was quite good. I dropped my phone this morning, and it's happened a few times. I think with this phone it's happened like 3 times. I've genuinely been like diagnosed with dyspraxia. So if you think Zibby was bad in goals, I would have been even worse. Hand-eye coordination's horrendous. Dropped on the kitchen floor this morning, not even responsive. So thankfully my partner's quite sensible. So when her last deal ended, she kept her old phone because she knows how clumsy I am, and she was prepared, and she thought, you know, it's good to have a spare phone there just in case. But yeah, I had to order a new phone today, which is because there's no point in just paying for it to get repaired again and then drop it again. So
yeah,
get a new phone and there's one I can get with a big case with this new phone coming. So anyway, but yeah, good Sunday. So obviously we're going to be chatting about the game yesterday. Obviously I've got the graphic up already. Done a big preview and everything yesterday. Do you know there was questions I had for the quiz, which I thought, you know what, I'll leave them for the final quiz because we'll do another special. I didn't need that, did I? I could have just used the questions. Yeah, so that's aye. And also there's been a bit of a reaction online, so we're going to have a chat. Well, kind of what fans are talking about in terms of who's to blame. Is it Jack Ross? Is it Matthew? Is it the players? Is there a mentality thing that needs to change? So we're going to have a chat about that. But yeah, let's just jump on with the game. Stephen, you must have been happy when you seen it looked like it was going to be a 3-5-2.
I think that was the only thing that was positive, and then that was all before kickoff. So no, there was a reason I never bothered like coming on your live thing yesterday, was because I knew everybody would come on all positive and buzzing that we'd get a result. Here's me, Mr. Negative, and here we are. So.
Callum, how did you feel when you seen that Rocky was back in? Obviously Macy's done quite well, I believe, in a couple of games, but Rocky back in. How did you feel at the start of the game when you seen the lineup?
I think Rocky being in was the right decision. He's our number one. And if Macy had been given the nod and then done something wrong, Ross is going to get in the next straight away. Why is he leaving Rocky on the bench when he's available? So I think he had to play. Team looked attacking. Obviously Newell was a miss straight away, but apart from that, I don't think we had too much concern about the lineup we put out. It looked good, and I think people wanted to see Irvin and Cadden both in there as well. So,
and Craig, we were kind of trying to work it out beforehand. We're kind of saying, is it like a 3-4-3 with Boyle and Murphy either side of Nisbet, or is it the two up top and Murphy behind? But it was kind of Boyle was kind of the one most central once the game got up and started, wasn't he?
Aye, that's the way I seen it anyway. Where Nisbet was very much out in the wide areas for the first, I don't know, maybe 10-15 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Whereas it could have, like we said, it could have been. I thought it was. I said it in the chat when the team was announced that I thought it would be 3-4-3, or like you say, Murphy in behind the Boyle and Nisbet up front.
But I mean, it was. I think the first sort of 6-7 minutes there was a bit tense, but no really much sort of chances going. But after that, I think Hibs really sort of started to set up. St Johnstone had set up quite deep, hard to break down. Their fullbacks were quite deep, but that didn't stop, Boyle getting a chance from a shot outside the box earlier on. Hanlon had a kind of volley that was kind of behind him, but he done well to get on target as well. Keeper kind of parried it away. And off the back of that move, Hibs kept the ball, were patient in the build-up, waited for the space, found the space, worked it out to Gogic. Gogic puts in a brilliant ball, and Craig, Jamie Murphy, what's he doing?
It's inexcusable. Like, to miss the first one, for me, is bad enough. He's one-on-one with the keeper, and all he needs to do is put it to the opposite side, and it's a goal. Mm-hmm. But, sometimes the ones just don't go your way, so fair enough. To then be presented with the ball right back at his feet and miss again is just, I just don't know how you can justify it. Like, obviously the folk are saying that the St Johnstone defender's in a position to block it if he tries to hit it, but you could argue that Nisbet was almost in a harder position against Celtic and managed to place it right into the top corner. He placed it with power, whereas Murphy's tried to dink it.
Did he do a Jason Cummins? Try and chip it when he shouldn't have, where he didn't need to?
I think, I don't know what his thinking was, to be honest. It was more a Lumo-esque for me. Like Craig says, to be presented with that opportunity, it's a gift. And for him to waste that, especially when the game was still 0-0, that's pretty much set the tone for me. I think it just drained all the confidence after such a good period of play as well. So,
and I mean, as you mentioned, that good period of play that kind of continued. Again, Hibs quite patient in their build-up, waiting for the space. Boyle, kind of more out towards the left-hand side, to sort of picked it up, whipped in a dangerous ball, and it was a header by Irvine, which went just past the post. Callum, I mean, one of the main positives for me was Jackson Irvine's performance. He really looks like we've got a real player there.
Yeah, definitely, and I think the next few weeks we'll get him fit for his move, won't we, Stephen? But I think definitely we saw his aerial presence a couple of times yesterday. But that header was the harder of the two, the way he directed it. But then the second one was a good header as well that he had. So I think that does give us a different dimension up there that we haven't had before. So.
Yeah, you mentioned that there was the ball from Hanlon, he headed it, hit off the woodwork. To me, it just seemed like the goal was coming, but that wasn't to be.
I know,
And before we get to the St Johnstone goal, I mean, there was encouraging signs, Stephen, from the first half.
Well done for spoiling it, Gav. People might not have seen the game, and now they already can that St Johnstone have scored. It's one of these things. St Johnstone, they're really good defensively, and we said that at 0-0, they were going to be hard to break down as it was, and then obviously when they go 1-0 up, you've got absolutely no chance, in my opinion. It's like I says, after Murphy's chance had went, that was it for me, just waiting for us to concede. So,
and I can sense a rant coming on here when I asked this. There was quite a few corners we had in the first half, quite a few free kicks in dangerous places as well. I know a lot of the free kick takers weren't on the park, but Craig, your thoughts on Martin Boyle taking the set pieces?
Absolute fucking joke. Like, it is. I mean, I've seen people online try to justify it with, he's a winger, so it should be one of his strong points. Now, granted, I never played to any level, but when I played youth football, I played on left wing. And taking a cross for a running position, aiming it into a certain area, is a whole lot of difference for taking a static set piece and trying to place it into a specific area. The fact that Martin Boyle is a professional football player and he doesn't seem to be able to lift the ball 5 feet above the ground. Mm-hmm. Every single set piece hit the first man. Every single cross that he took hit the first man. And for me, it is inexcusable that, I know we'll get on to the manager later, but he's obviously had his rant at Kenny McIntyre yesterday when he's asked, well, what did you do wrong? Like, surely in the run-up to he said before the game that we knew that by Wednesday Newell wasn't going to be fit. He's obviously had an idea that Mallin's not going to be in the squad because Allen's fit again, but Allen's only going to be on the bench. And then he's obviously had an idea that Halberg. So there's your four players that can take set pieces are nowhere near the team. So why the hell has he not tried to work on something other than putting Martin Boyle on them? Because I think I put it in the group chat about 3 or 4 times. It was like, it started with, why is Boyle on set plays? Get Boyle off set plays. And then eventually it turned into capital letters being, get Martin Boyle off fucking set pieces. It's no good enough. And it just sums up that for me sums up the whole afternoon.
When you think about Boyle as a winger, the majority of his crosses tend to be more cutbacks, don't they?
Yeah.
His crosses are shite. Like we've argued this in the past. Like when we were fortunate enough to be doing it in person, Gav would have like the sort of Y Scout stuff in front of us, so we can, when we came to the more like sort of analytical parts of the pod, and we could look through it. And Martin Boyle's output in the final third is hopeless. Like more often than not, it's been hopeless. He's got better as the years have progressed in certain areas, but in other areas he's not progressed whatsoever. And for me, it's like you say, Callum. If he's a winger and he's driving down the byline, he's not going to be able to whip a ball in for a running position, given how fast he goes. It's going to be a driven ball or a cutback. So it's just. It's actually embarrassing. Like, it is embarrassing that he took every single set piece we had yesterday.
Yeah, and not identifying that it wasn't working and changing it, having no backup plan. And speaking of, Craig mentioned the set pieces not beating the first man. The first set piece St Johnstone got was a corner, and Witherspoon took it. Remember David Witherspoon? And he managed, funnily enough, he actually got past the first man, and it even went even further. It got to the back post. It got over everybody and headed in. Stephen, your thoughts on the defending for this goal?
Typical Hibs. We've seen it all season. It's just there's no leadership when it comes to set pieces. I have no faith in Hanlon and Porteous as centre backs at the moment. Said it for weeks. I think since the Rangers game at Easter Road, Porteous has been off on one, been non-existent defending. Don't think Hanlon can lead a team, lead players, especially somebody as young as Porteous. And we need somebody with a bit more experience that will be able to pull Porteous through. But defending for set pieces, corners, free kicks, everything, just terrible.
Callum, what was I've seen a bit of criticism for Jamie Murphy here as well. What's the point in him being on the post? Doesn't even get anywhere near it. Yeah,
I mean, both their headers are, both their goals are good headers, but the marking and the positioning is awful. Yeah, Murphy and Hanlon, just. And what's interesting for me as well is when they spoke to St Johnstone's manager after the match, it's, you've scored from 2 set pieces. Was that something that you identified as being a weakness for Hibs? And he laughed and went, no. So, he found it funny. I'm glad someone did.
And the second one for St Johnstone, in the second half, came from another set piece, dangerous ball. Just actually, before we get to that, Callum, I know you've been a bit positive from speaking into the group chat. Is there things that you see in the first half in terms of Jackson's performance? Obviously, Allen and McGuinness came on in the second half, although the game was gone by then. Do you see encouraging signs in terms of the league campaign going forward, in terms of performances?
I think if they can take that first half performance and sort of the defending, that first half performance makes you feel better about what could come. But they've got to get over that now. I think you worry that what happened in the second half, particularly yesterday, is maybe going to really hurt. I think Ross in particular, and I think his saving grace might be the fact that we're not in the stadium, fans aren't in the stadium. But yeah, I mean, I think I put in the group chat. I thought it was the first time in ages that I've watched Hibs and actually been enjoying the game. It was quite an exciting game. It was good to watch, and of course, we know what happens next. But yeah, definite signs there of starting to get the right players in place. I mean, Cadden's not fit, clearly. He probably shouldn't have started. I think that's probably an error there. But Irvine definitely already starting to look like the player we remember from when he was at Ross County.
Yeah, really excited about him in the midfield going forward. But yeah, we'll go. Well, obviously we started talking about the second goal, Stephen. I mean, just quickly on that. I mean, another set piece, dangerous ball, but handling beaten too easy.
100%, and I've already said it. It's just there's no commanding positions or anything. Any set piece, I'd just pretty much concede that it's got to be a goal. Even if they had to take a free kick for the halfway line, I'd still expect it to probably trickle in. it's mind-boggling that he's our captain and he's getting beat that easy in the air. He's a centre back. Like, he should be up in the air and winning. What?
Quite a tall guy as well.
Exactly. I would have rather put Macy as a centre back. Genuinely would have rather had Macy as a centre back. Have a 6'7" player that can clearly get head and shoulders above other players. But Hanlon's past it.
It's not a coincidence that Porteous looked the best player we've seen of him when he had the Ambrose next to him.
100%. Why did we get rid of Ambrose?
Ambrose or McGregor?
I wouldn't get McGregor back in the squad though.
No, but Porteous looked like we went to Ibrox and 1-1 with fucking Stevenson and Porteous at centre half. And it's just baffling. I'm honestly.
And if we don't get another centre back in this transfer window, then we're in trouble. Like, I can definitely see us bottom 6 by the end of the season.
Just to touch on what you said to Callum, Gav, about the performance in the first half, is that bode well for the future. And if you take all the emotion in that out of it, right, the first half, up until we conceded, we were on top, and we were playing. I wouldn't say it was exciting, but we were playing well. It felt like we were working the ball in dangerous areas and we were getting in positions to make chances, like Irvin's header that just went past the post, Irvin's header that hit the bar, Murphy's 2 chances. Like, you'd maybe be expecting 2 goals at least for them. But in terms of how the performance looks moving forward, and I've said this earlier on as well, and for me personally, this is Jack Ross's Robbie Nielsen moment. We came back for 2-0 down to draw against Hearts. We then put them out and then went on to win the cup. And certain elements of the Hearts support have never forgiven Nielsen for that, despite the fact we had to then go and negotiate several rounds after it. They could have stopped us winning the cup, and they never. For me, the Hearts game was a hard one to take, but that game yesterday was probably 10 times worse in the fact that as soon as that second goal went in, their heads just fucking went.
Yeah.
And he's talking after the game about, that what you need is guts, what you need is determination. And he said something about, as a manager, that can't come from me. Well, I'm sorry, but there needs to be something. Your manager needs to be able to, in any line of work, if your manager comes to you and says to you, right, guys, Ken, we need these figures done by the end of the week, and they're really pushing you, you'll be like, fuck me, I want to do it. Whereas if you've got a guy standing on the sidelines wearing his own clothes because he likes fashion, who doesn't really seem to care, that rubs off on the team. That second half collapse is nothing short of unforgivable.
But at least after the game, I know the interview he gave for Premier Sports, you could see he was angry, and then obviously the other one he done as well, where he's had a go. At least that's the first time I've actually seen some anger and fight from Ross. He's normally quite a cool character at all times. So, okay, I don't know what else he could have come out and said, but at least you could see that it was there.
To me, it was all hot air, though. Like, I
know you're kind of wanting to talk about Jack Ross. We'll come back to that in a second, because there's a whole bit. I know that's the meat everyone wants to get to, but we've got to get through the potatoes first. That's a really rubbish analogy, but you know what I mean. We'll get back to Jack Ross in a second. Just a quick thing I wanted to ask you on. We were 2-0 down, and both to be fair, both goals have came from set pieces. They've not really created much else from that. What did you guys make, just sort of from everyone, maybe Callum, starting with yourself, what did you guys make of the fact that he gave up on the system, brought Doidge on, went 4-4-2, when you could argue the system was working because we were creating chances? Callum?
Yeah, although I think most people probably were saying get another striker on, so it's probably hard to, hindsight's a great thing, but we're probably all at that point where we're saying you need to get another striker on now and kind of go for it. But the problem was then it was all bluster after that. We never really seemed to get anything ahead of steam going again. I was looking at the stats earlier and I was quite surprised that we had 7 shots on goal in the first half. We had 6 on goal in the second half. I don't really remember us. They can't have been very good shots.
I can't remember them at all.
No. So, yeah, I can see what you're saying about change because it was working. But no, I think he did have to bring another striker on at that point.
And like I say that we're going to get. I was going to do this bit next, but actually we'll kind of merge this into the next segment. And like I say, I know just sort of looking at the chances. I know Murphy blazed over. Obviously, it was great to see Scott Allen coming on. St Johnstone had the ball. I'll be honest, they were in the corner flag. Didn't look like there was a threat. But oh wait, there's a massive gap between Hanlon and Doidge, and they just put the ball into that, and then Murphy just walks beside him. It's like he's escorting him along the line. The ball gets whipped in, easy as you want, at the back post. What was your kind of guys' thoughts when you seen the gaps in the defence? Murphy's chauffeuring them along, whatever the word is, and just how easy it was. Stephen, what would start with yourself?
Yeah, this will sum it up, and if you know, you know, right? But this is all I heard this whole second half. Can that, after every single goal in the 5-1 game, that's what I heard fucking for the full second half, was just us getting pumped again. Like, performances horrendous. Like, I just don't know what to say. Like,
that third goal is like the icing on top of the cake, though. Like, for me, Murphy wouldn't get near a Hibs top again.
Yeah.
For that is a serious lack of effort and lack of application. And I'm sorry, but if we're putting in, I mean, me and Callum have got kids, so we've got our kids' season tickets on top of our own. So there's a grand between us. Gav, you've got yours. Stephen, you've got yours. All the guys in the group chat have got theirs. We're having to watch for home. The club needed us to step up due to the ongoing situation. Kim, we're all in different situations money-wise. We've all stepped up. And for them to put in a performance like that, and for someone like Murphy, who's had the career that he's had at a fairly decent level, to show no effort and no desire to even try and get a block on the cross, is just... I keep saying the word unforgivable, but that's exactly what it is. It's unforgivable.
Murphy's such a strange one to me because it's clear that he's a good footballer. He's got a good ball in. He's good on the ball, but it's not quite clicked. And I know we've talked about it and joked about it, that he does this thing where he'll go across the front of the box with the ball rather than play it through. Because when he does go direct and take a man on and put a good ball in it, it looks great and it's worked a few times, but just something hasn't clicked for him over his whole time so far with the club. I know he's had niggly injuries and stuff, but that seems to be part and parcel of his career as well. But yeah, just something. And I suppose he can't play. I know we'll come to it later, but he can't play during the week anyway, so it'll be interesting that he won't be in the team.
Just quickly, in the comments here, I can see that Delboy4 has put Gaffer's fault because Murphy was injured, which showed when he was trying to run back for the third goal. So I don't know if that's maybe part of it.
Well, if he's injured, he's experienced enough to know. Fucking lie down.
Aye.
Like, just go down. Like, I'm sure he went down at the start of the second half. Was it the start of the second half?
Yeah.
After their second goal, and it looked like he was getting his hamstring or something stretched.
Yeah, right enough. Yeah. Aye.
Like, see, on injuries as well. On injuries, was Porto playing for most of the game with an injury from the first half?
I think he should have been taken off after the collision at the start, like the first 5 minutes.
His knee.
Again,
I thought just
but that's him.
To his knee to me.
That's him trying to be a smart arse and play out for the back. And Kenny, he'd won the ball easily, and he's trying to take a man on. Just fucking get rid of it. Like, just get it up the park. But no, they've got this weird fucking thought process of, oh, if I'm Porteous, what do? I get the ball here. Who am I looking for? I'm looking for fucking Murphy. Vroom. Like, sorry, I'm just fucking fed up.
It's fine. You're. This is how a lot of Hibs fans are today. So it's good to kind of. Hopefully, this helps you by venting a bit, Craig. And I mean that you mentioned Porteous sort of. I mean, it sort of seemed to be Porteous, Hanlon, and McGinn sort of lumping it aimlessly in the last sort of 10-15 minutes. St Johnstone players were just picking it up, coming again. Hibs would win it, pass it about to the Porteous, McGinn or Hanlon. It would lump it long. It just seemed like Hibs had just given up the last 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I mean this will take us into, like I say, this is still kind of sticking to the St Johnstone game just now, but kind of moving on to the next topic slightly, kind of who's to blame for, like say, for yesterday, and for, this ties into the other semi-final as well. But I mean, like I say, this was originally going to be my match stats. I've got my notes here, but this is some of the descriptions I've seen from the second half performance. Spineless, no bottle/bottleless, bottlers, gave up, weak, no mental strength, shambles, abysmal, boy band is back. That was one of the ones for the 3-word review. So I mean, we're kind of going through, who's to blame for yesterday and who's to blame for sort of the form in general. Craig, it's starting with the players. What's going wrong with the players and the players' mentality?
We can go back 10, 15, 20, 25 years to talk about players' mentality. It just seems to be that for certain players, as soon as they pull that Hibs jersey on, they just turn into bottlers. Absolute bottle jobs. Cowards is a strong word to use, but that second half performance was nothing short of cowardice. So they need to take some responsibility.
Stephen, what was your thoughts on the sort of giving up that you played that song? But what the players kind of gave up, and that what's going on with the mentality in the club at the moment?
No, it's accurate though. It's been for years now. Like every time that we get anywhere, you look at Ross's record, and we pointed this out after the game yesterday, and this is why we're not going to finish in the top 4, is the fact that he can't beat Aberdeen, he can't beat Celtic, he can't beat Rangers, he can't win a semi-final. Did he beat Hearts last season?
Royal game.
Yeah, Boxing Day.
One game, but then the last game that we actually played them, we got fucked at home again. So it's his results at home are terrible. We've got a better away record than we have at home. Like I don't understand how we could be so bad, and then people still think that we're going to finish top 4, or that the performances this whole season have been acceptable.
Callum, the Simpsons SPFL put up a thing which I thought was quite. It was one of those things where I find it funny, but also hurts me a little bit inside as well. They put up they were favourites for the cup until they remembered that they were Hibernian. Have we has the Scottish Cup kind of made us think that those days were kind of gone? And I don't know. I mean, obviously you've been a Hibs fan longer than us, but I mean, what's your kind of views on life as a Hibs fan? And hi.
We used the term, didn't we? I remember after the cup, the day it all changed. It really didn't. Yeah, it was. I mean, I know we touched on it before. I mean, if it wasn't for that game, Stubbs would have gone down as a good Hibs manager.
Stubbs would have been fucking chased at the door, and
which is maybe a bit unfair because he had the same record as Lennon then had without Hearts and Rangers in the league, but. Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of rinse and repeat with how things go with the club. I am optimistic regarding the overall sort of direction. I know a few of us were at the AGM and we heard what Ron said about what his plans were. Obviously, that got smashed to bits with everything that's happened in the last year. But even that aside, we're seeing lots of things, lots of sponsorship deals with the club, movement with new positions being made at the club. I think we've seen the manager being backed. The players that have come in the summer and in this window are the kind of players, the likes of McGuinness and Nisbet are the kind of players that you want us to be signing. They're in they're looking at the sort of John McGinn model and saying that that's what how they want to go forward. And I do think that the guy seems to be a winner. We know what American sports mentality is like. It's kind of important, and I can imagine he'll be absolutely raging after yesterday. So I think Ross's. I kind of agree with Craig about the Nielsen moment. He's got a lot to do before the fans get back in. He's got a lot to do to win the fans back round. The majority of fans after yesterday, I think. Personally, I wouldn't be sacking him. I think you're going to talk about it later.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be saying sack him, but I personally think that's crazy to be saying sack the guy that's got us fourth in the league after essentially keeping us up last year, where we were at one point. We were the same points as Hearts at one point when he came in, and then we've finished well clear. I think he deserves the time to build the team. We've talked about over a period of time, results over performance, and we've seen that. You know, in the whole, we're sitting fourth for a reason, because we've gained more points than the other teams in the league. So, but the next wee while, I think the next few weeks will be really interesting to see where he goes from here.
I don't think it's just a Ross problem, right?
Just quickly, Craig. Just quickly on the. Just want to finish up on the players. I don't know. Sorry, this might be the point you were going to make. To see if it is a mentality problem with the players. How do we fix that? I don't know if that was the point you were going to make there.
Well, kinda. I thought I'd have a wee look, right? So we compare ourselves naturally to Aberdeen and Hearts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as Callum puts it in the group chat, it shows that statistically over the course of time, we are the fifth biggest, right? Whatever way you want to determine biggest club in Scotland. Now, I just thought I'd go and have a wee look at, like, comparing it in terms of cups, right? So not even semi-finals, finals, right? So we have been in more finals than So Aberdeen have made the most finals, right? 7 times they've won the Scottish Cup. They've been runners up 9 times. The League Cup they've won 6 times, runners up 9 times. Hibs have been in 24 finals over the course of our history, and we're what, 150? Was it 150? It'd be 150 in 4 years' time.
Yeah.
So 145. So you're looking at we make a final every what?
I'm not good at maths.
5 years.
Someone in the chat.
5-6 years.
Yeah.
Every 5-6 years, right? And we have won 6 trophies out of a possible 24.
It's not a good return, is it?
We slag Hearts for no winning the League Cup, right? Since, however, so they've not won the League Cup since 1950, whatever it is.
56 or something like that.
1963 they last won it, and they've still won it more times than us. They've won 8 Scottish Cups, 4 League Cups, so there's 12 trophies. They've won double the amount of trophies that we have with less attempts than we have. There is an issue that runs through this club, no matter who is the manager, no matter, and now clearly who the owner is and who the players are.
So you're saying then you can't change it then?
I don't see what. The only time in my life that I have not felt like Hibs were a bunch of shitebag losers was the 2 years that we had under 2-3 years we had under McLeish, when we had winners like Sozzy, Yogi, Pat McGinley, you know, players that would have ran through a brick wall for the club. John O'Neill, Mixu Patalainen. And then, you know, the Stubbs, sort of the tail end, sort of the second half of Stubbs era, when we were going to Ibrox and winning. We won the cup. Then Lennon came in. You know, we went to Bromby and done well. We then the following season came up and were unlucky not to finish third. Was it third or second?
We could have finished that second.
We could have finished second.
We finished fourth in the end.
You know,
You say we were unlucky though, but again, was there a bottle thing there because we were running? We were running Aberdeen close going into the last few games, and then.
So I've been going to Easter Road as a season ticket holder for 24 years now, and you're probably talking about 5 years, 6 years out of that I've felt like, you know, we can go to places like Ibrox and Parkhead and Tynecastle and win.
Yeah.
Whereas it's just, that I put it up on Twitter yesterday and I kind of regret it now, but I don't. But it's like what it must be like to be a Hearts fan, right? Because no matter how shite they are or how bad it gets for them, we always manage to give them something to fucking laugh at. We do. We do. Can we go to Tynecastle to fucking relegate them, and what ends up happening? We end up getting relegated with them. We could have finished them off last season, and what happened? They fucking turned us over.
Yeah. These are the quirks that happen in all football. I know we don't care about all football.
It happens too often with us. It happens all far too often, and we cannot, for whatever reason, compete on a regular basis with Aberdeen and with Hearts. We can't.
Stephen, looking at kind of who's there at the moment. I was listening to an interview with quite an extended interview with Sean Dyche, and he was speaking about the recruitment they've got and about how they'll look at tapes and look at players, but they'll also do a lot of research into what kind of mentality the players have got, what they'll bring, what that sort of, so that they're one, they've got the right mentality, and two, they're similar and they're going to fit in mentality wise with the squads that we've got. So I guess this kind of ties into players that we've been talking about, but also ties into Graham Mathie. Is that something do you think we've been doing, and is it something we need to do more of in terms of not just signing a player that because they're good, but because there's been too many examples of Josh Velas that have came in and just not worked out.
But you look at all the facilities that Easter Road have got in place, right? They've got NHS meetings, they've got NHS boards and everything across in all the rooms that we're renting out. We've got a changing room, they've got sports psychologists, they've got sports analysts. All that is already in place at the club. So really, psychology and the mentality of the players going out every weekend, that shouldn't be an issue. So I think the recruitment, for one, has been shocking, and that falls to Mathie, because you look at the fact that we've got Murphy and we never got McCrory, and it was the exact same deal. And I don't care what Aberdeen were offering, because I'm pretty sure that we had offered the exact same as them, only we never wanted to give them McCrory back for the 6 or the 12 months. Yet we take Murphy on the exact same deal 2 weeks later. The players that we've brought in, you look at Irvin, and I don't know what the script is, if they've got the option of an extension, but if they do, then they should have just said it was an 18-month deal and then done exactly what they've done with Josh Vela, Adam Jackson, and cut their deals early if they didn't want to stay here. The fact that we've got him and it's been announced as a 6-month deal to the end of the season is absolutely shocking. The fact that we signed Macy rather than just take him on loan for Arsenal is shocking. To the end of the season again, and they're still up in the air as to whether or not Rocky's got to sign a new deal. Same with Irvin and Newell. We don't know if Newell's got to sign a new deal. Stick them on a two.
We've got to be careful.
That's another thing that seems to have been gone by the wayside. They're more interested in giving 3-4 year deals to Graham McGregor and signing up Stevenson for another 18 months. You're bang on. You're bang on, Stephen, and it's. As long as we're announcing fucking strategic partnerships with Stenhousemuir, or the next or we're partnering with an exclusive windy cleaner, or we're partnering,
But that's money coming in, and you've got to remember the time we're in at the minute. We've already touched on it, the coronavirus stuff. The club need to bring in money from any angle possible.
No, I appreciate that, right? I do. I really appreciate that, Callum, and understand that, right? So if we are managing to bring in us all the extra money, why are we letting players like Marciano, who is an established internationalist, get into the last 6 months of his deal? Why are we letting Newell get into the last 6 months of his deal? Why are we signing players like Macy and Irvin for 6 months? Where's the long-term planning in that? If Marciano's not going to sign a new deal, get Macy on a fucking 18-month deal.
I was going to come on to that though. Again,
if Rocky doesn't want to sign a new contract, thanks for your service. On you go.
On you go,
Callum. Again, linking it with what I was saying, I think. These deals, it doesn't surprise me either. When they don't know when fans are going to be back, they've got to be dead careful. Players like McGuinness, they're buying them Nesbitt, and you're hoping there's going to be a sell on, so that's the long term. But guys like Macy, we don't know how it's going to work. I think the players and the club are protecting themselves a little bit from the unknown of what could be happening over the next few months. You know, we might not be back in Easter Road this year.
But we signed Cadden for 2.5 years.
Well,
And he's
again,
not even played for what, 6 months. He signed Darwin and he's not played since July.
I think
March has not played since
March. That's even worse. This is. I know you've got to jump in, Gav, but what the point is, like, and from what you're saying, why are we signing players on deals when we're not even got to see them? Because Irving could be out the door without us even seeing him live. Same with Macy, and the fact that we signed Marciano originally for Ashdod on what was that, a 3-year deal with a 50% sell-on clause, and we took a chance on him. He wasn't even getting a game at Ashdod. You look at Canberra and McLaren and all them as well. They weren't getting games, but we were giving them 2-3-year deals after their loans. A 6-month deal shouldn't be on the table at this time, in my opinion. But
I understand what you're saying there, because I think 6-month deals are something we've got to be careful with. I think the 2012 Scottish Cup final was a massive lesson for not having too many players on short-term deals, too many short loans, because it was kind of that mentality creeps in of, oh, if this doesn't go that great, I'm out the door in May anyway, it's fine. But I think Callum makes a great point. I think we don't know all the things behind the stage. This is everything's a complete unknown now, and I think it is reasonable to say that I understand your current arguments about Cadden and stuff, but I think there is an argument that Irvin and Macy, that we may have to just sort of get them in till the end of the season and see where we are as a club, because they're probably big earners, and we probably can't. Cadden's probably on a much lower wage than Irvin's going to be. We might not be in a position to do, like, if there's going to be no fans for another 18 months, Hibs might be able to go, look, it's great to have you, Irvin, but we can't afford that same sort of deal for another year if we've not got fans coming in, if we don't have walk-ups coming in. So I understand what you're saying, but I think unless we know all the details, I don't think we can sort of. It is frustrating though, because, like, say, I don't know if that sort of short-term mentality is sort of creeping in.
But that's a double-edged sword, that one, Gav, because, like, with Macy, take Irvin for example. How can he be part of any season ticket marketing campaigns?
Aye, you can't.
Because there's where if I knew that Jackson Irvin was a Hibs player for at least 18 months, that gives you a wee bit of an incentive to go ahead and renew your season ticket, because you know that you'll get to see players like him on the, on a longer term.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now we've got Rocky, Newell, Macy wouldn't really count him as an exciting player, but Irvin on 6-month deals. We've got 6 months left. So what's the marketing campaign got? Because it'll be coming soon. You can bet your arse it'll be coming soon.
But to be fair, that's the only players we've got out of contract. And if you look in the past, we've had seasons where we've come to the end of a season and we've got 7-8 players out of contract. So
but no first team players, Callum. Like these, Irvin, Newell, and Marciano are 3 bona fide first team players. We shouldn't be allowing ourselves to get into the position where a 6-month deal is the only option that we've got. Like if we've got the money for 6 months, then we'll have the money for 18 months.
Yeah.
So I know it's not as simple as that, but like
the players will be looking at things as well, though, because they've just had a lot of going through lockdown, and Newell's been up here now and maybe no being able to see his family at all because of the situation and stuff. So they're maybe looking at it. Maybe he's just already decided, I want to get back down the road at the end of this so that I'm closer to my family with everything that's going on as well. So as Gav says, it's hard when we don't know everything that's going on. It's easy for us to blame the club for things, but sometimes it's going to be completely out of their hands. And what do you do?
Always the club's fault.
What do you do then? Do you cut your nose off to spite your face and say, well, fuck it, I'm not going to play Marciano, I'm not going to play Newell? They're still our players, we're still paying them wages, and they're our better players, so I'd still have them in, and they've got to put themselves in the shop window. If they're wanting to go somewhere else, if they want a better move, they're going to have to perform.
So no sign a new deal, sell them and get the money and use them to bring in players that want to be here.
That's if they're going to sign. I mean, look at McGeoch. From what we know, we gave McGeoch a really good deal on the table. And there's even talk that we offered him more than Sunderland did. Yeah, he wanted to go there. That was his. So I don't think there's anything Hibs could have done in that situation. He just wanted to get down to England and try and make it in England.
So here's a segue. And one of those players that played with and Dylan McGee when he's down in England at Sunderland was of course managed by Jack Ross. Segue. So obviously we've kind of touched on it already about Jack Ross. But Craig, I know you went on a rant on Twitter, so I'll kind of let you start this. And like I say, it was Craig that you put up the Twitter poll yesterday. A question I'm sure on a lot of people's mind: should Jack Ross stay or should he be relieved of his duties? Quite close, 44.4% said stay, and 55.6% have said go. That's with 801 votes and 14 minutes remaining. It was last night you done it. So I know you put out a tweet about blaming the players versus blaming the manager. So what's your kind of view on it?
I mean, it's about like I've said on Twitter again today. Like it's very easy to get caught up in that moment because we are not at games. So our only outlet is between ourselves in the group chat or going straight on social media. Whereas we would usually, if we were trudging out of Hampden yesterday, we'd be fucking raging, going back to the bus. And then you go into Asda and you get a couple of cans for the bus. And then slowly but surely, as the journey continues home, the sort of disappointment subsides. Whereas when you're sitting in the house, you've not got that avenue. I just think that, and I said it in the group chat a couple of weeks ago, I said that, do you know what? I'll give them till this time next year. Give them the January window, give them the summer, let's see what he can do. Can we get fans back in, blah, blah, blah. And then see where we're sitting at in a year's time when it's properly his squad. Like when it's his full team. But, that's now 4 big games as a manager that he's not been able to lead his team to victory. When you go to Sunderland and he lost the Johnstone's painting in the playoff final, and then he's lost a Scottish Cup semi-final and now a League Cup semi-final. For me, I don't want to be, now that I've had time to sit and think on it, I still don't think he has what it takes to make us that club that he keeps talking about, to push to that next level, to challenge for trophies, to challenge for European qualification. I don't think he has the. I need to be careful with what I say here, but I don't think he has
the balls,
the qualities. I don't think he has the qualities to make us the team that he seems to think that he can.
Stephen, Craig mentioned about having a few windows. If there is a sort of thing about the mentality inside the club needs to change a lot in terms of like say personnel and things like that, and getting the right personnel and we're going to chat in a bit about what we're potentially missing. Surely he needs more than 2 windows to do that.
My question is Jack Ross a head coach or is he manager?
Ask the questions.
And I need to know it, because if he's manager, then that means that he's making the signings. And if he's making the signings, then he should be telling the club what he requires of each signing.
He's a head coach, but
but
he has a working partnership with Matthew, as did Heckenbottom with Matthew, and
Right. So basically, Jack Ross turned around and says, "Get Jackson Irvine in for 3 years," and Matthew says, "I can't get him in for 3 years. I'll get him in for 6 months." Right.
So we don't know. That's
that's what
speculation.
I think that's what needs to be clarified by the club, and this is where the whole we are a transparent club and we give all the information that all the fans want to hear, right? So we need to know who's actually making the decisions on the signings, because the way it's working at the moment, it's not working. It's not working at all. The fact is that if Ross is picking the players to sign, then he's had his own players in now over 2 windows. 2 windows should be enough, and it's more than a lot of managers actually get to bring his own signings in and make that team his. There's no remnants of Heckie's team with players that he doesn't want, because he got rid of James. Jackson went, Vela went. Pretty much all the shite went after Heckie had left and Jack Ross had his first window. So now it's down to the manager, and we had this discussion in the chat yesterday. Jack Ross is a defender. Well, he was a defender. John Potter was a defender. And I went through their career stats, and none of them made it past a club of Dunfermline and St Mirren type. I think one of them played for Hartlepool or something. So maybe that's where their standards are. But if we want Hibs to be a top 3 club in Scotland,
we've got the third best defence in the league.
Yeah.
How can you justify that?
We do.
By the facts that we do, yeah.
Conceded,
but that was
you can flip that on the fact that we're the only team that Rangers haven't given an absolute fucking doing to.
But that's surely it
is a positive. But
yeah, that's to our credit.
I just don't see how you can look at that and say we've been the third best defence in the league when it's a margin of maybe 2-3 goals. Like if it was a decent amount of goals, then aye, but. Like,
it's still where we are.
3 goals the other way. You know, I just to look going to what Stephen was saying. It looks like it's all seeming to fall apart since George Craig left.
Nisbet never had a single shot on target last night, by the way, just to clarify that.
Nisbet was out of the game, and that's why when Gav asked about Deutsch coming on, I said, yeah, it was the right thing, because I think Nisbet is a striker that needs someone alongside him. And I know we're saying about Boyle, but they weren't playing as a front two yesterday. You know, Nisbet was out of the game completely. It wasn't involved at all.
Callum, I know you went on .net this morning. I know you were kind of toying whether to do it or not, and you did go on. And you seen, I was asking you kind of what's that, because I couldn't face it this morning. I couldn't face .net. I went for a walk instead. You were sort of saying about how there's a lot of chat about how, you know, sometimes the results have been there in the performances. I know that we've spoke about that in the past in the pod. What's your kind of views on that, performances versus results? And when the results aren't there, then there's more questions asked.
I think we said it as well at half time yesterday, didn't we? We had the performance yesterday in the first half, but we were 1-0 down. So I asked the question. I know Craig came back and said, was it about 20 million%, Craig, something like that? Would you take boring defensive performance in that first half but be winning? And Craig said absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's a results game. And yes, Hibs fans pride themselves on this, the way that the style that we're meant to play with and stuff, but exactly. So we need results, and at the end of the day, I think it's clear that Ross has come in and went, I'll use the players that are here and build my team. In the meantime, I'll do what I need to get the results, and that's got us fourth in the league. You know, close to second and third. I'm comfortable with that being the case, as long as, when, you know, Craig's saying a year's time, if we start to see the performances coming as well as the results. But that's going to be an interesting balance in that. I don't think we've got the right personnel yet to be able to pull both off, as yesterday in the first half showed. We've got the performance right, we didn't get the result, and then the bottle crashed in the second half. I'm prepared to give it time. In the league overall, the results have been there. So.
And Craig, one of the sticks that Jack Ross gets hits with is the fact that he's not got the results against the bigger sides. Is that something that you feel maybe once, you know, Scott Allen and McGuinness fully fit up and running, Cadden fully fit up and running, once these new signings and once everybody's up and running, that we can maybe see the performances and being a lot more competitive against Aberdeen, Rangers, Celtic? And to be fair, we have been competitive against Rangers, but we've not got those results yet.
I don't see where it's coming from. There seems to be I don't know what it is, a cloud over the club now. We seem to be back in the old Petrie Farmer days. You know, Leanne went really, really quiet and then all of a sudden resigned. There's been no discussion about whether she's being replaced. You know, we then had Graham Mathey take on the role of sporting director of football, head of football operations, fucking chief tannoy announcer at Ockleview for Stenhousemuir. Like, it's, I just fear that we are going back down this slippery slope, and regardless of who's in charge, the manager, whatever the players are, nothing's going to change, because there's another rot starting to slowly set its way into the club. So
I don't think so. I don't. I just
I
think
don't see how you can justify it's not, because
the one justification is the fact that fans are actually back in the club now. The fans
I suppose we're not
fans are
seeing
putting in the money.
7,000 crowds we're not seeing 8,000, 9,000 crowds at Easter Road for a derby, so I get your point with that.
But even during the pandemic, when we've not been able to go, though, fans have been putting in the money through HSL and all the rest of it, and that's something that we've not had before. So obviously, it shows that even though the results are shite, the performances are shite, fans are actually backing it during a tough period, which we've never had before. So I think that's where the balance is between Callum and your point.
I know you mentioned Leanne leaving there, and I've seen somebody in the chats put this, Del Boy 4 again. Is there something wrong behind the scenes? Leanne left. Was this due to the board or her wanting a change? I don't know this, but this is just me speculating. I get the impression she's seen herself. She's talked about sort of staying too long at a club. I firmly believe she's seen herself finishing up after 5, maybe 6 years. Ron's came in, so she's helped with the transition. She's stuck around for extra time to help transition Ron into the club, and then she's left. I don't think it was like, I think she was always leaving no matter what.
Yeah. I think definitely that role there's a shelf life to it, isn't there? And you get to the point where you need someone fresh in with new ideas. And I think if we're honest, she had started to get a lot quieter, and the sort of interest. Something that was pointed out today was, if we go back to the early days, we used to have all that interaction stuff with like outside the box and all that kind of stuff, which was great. We're missing it, and possibly you can't do things like that at the minute. But
I think there's been a lot of the media team furloughed as well.
Yeah. But you look at Motherwell's. Yeah, their social media is brilliant. They're on fire with it, so it can be done. And I think if the time we're in at the minute, if they were sort of pushing stuff like that, it would definitely help keep the interaction going with the fans.
Like a socially distanced 60 minutes with fucking Melker, 60 seconds with Melker, or a Nisbet type thing. Let us know what the players are like.
Well,
my point about Leanne Dempster leaving would be like, what organisation, any organisation with a turnover of, a multi-million-pound turnover, allows their CEO to leave without there being a replacement? And Hibs didn't even announce it. Like, Hibs didn't even confirm it was her last day. Like, it was almost like she was just kind of, right, out the door, away you go. Whereas it's just amateur. It's so amateur to allow the head of your organisation just to go and not have a suitable replacement already lined up.
And so I finished selection up. I know we've kind of been talking about players. We've talked about Jack Ross quite a bit and the Texas performances. We've talked about recruitment. We've spoke about Matthew. I know Callum already kind of touched on this earlier on. Ron Gordon. Callum, you seem quite excited about the future, about everything that's kind of going on behind the scenes, and that will take time. Stephen, what's your kind of thoughts? Are you getting a bit impatient already, or are you willing to give everything that is going on behind the scenes time?
See, if I turn up in 2022 to a Hibs game and there's a fucking Megatron and there's no Jackson Irvine, that'll end me. Like that'll be where I draw the line.
Somebody's wearing one of the things with popcorn and hot dogs on them,
and you've not got players on the park. Like I don't know where it's gone. I don't know where the line is with Hibs now. The fact that all these players are on short-term deals, all our big players that we're actually needing. And and we've not got a replacement. And if we've not got funds to put them on higher wages, how the fuck have we got funds to bring in new players? Unless we're planning on just getting unattached players or more loans next season.
Craig, your thoughts? What's the kind of Hibs have to get a balance between getting things behind the scenes but also money on the pitch?
Obviously especially with the situation that we're in, we don't want the club to be looking at, paying over the odds for certain players or for certain things, and like you said, the commercial side of things, like these constant streams of partnerships and link-ups and that will be good because it's income that's coming in that otherwise wouldn't be at the moment. But at the end of the day, as fans, we didn't care if we've got an official pillow partner. We don't care if we have paired up with a cutlery company to produce limited edition knives and
That's a good
forks.
We'd
idea.
probably all buy them though.
What we care about is, the Hibs Twitter, like the engagement that day with Jackson Irvine. All it was a simple GIF spinning the globe, landing in Australia, and everybody was like, "Yeah, fucking yes." What a buzz that created for Hibs online. We were going Raj in the group chat as Raj as we could. But so there needs to be a balance found, but we need to make sure that we're sensible about it. But that if there's more money coming in for commercial activities, that needs to be getting put out on the park, nowhere else, in my opinion.
Callum, I know you sort of touched on it earlier on, but you sort of mentioned being at the AGM and you're still really excited about the future under Ron.
Yeah, I think everything's had to have a pin put in it, really, hasn't it? So all these commercial deals and everything that's coming in are still probably isn't covering money coming through the gates. So they're trying to top that up essentially, I suppose, at the minute, and we know where things are with furlough and all those bits and pieces. But yeah, I think definitely still looking forward to what his long-term vision is, and I think it was some said recently that these plans are still in place, but it'll just be a little bit longer for them to see the fruits of it. But totally, I'm on board still, definitely, and we've just got to be aware that it's going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah. So we're going to finish up with a chat about the Rangers game, which that'll be fun to chat about. But I'm just going to have a look through the chat here and see some of the questions in the chat. I can see that Archie has asked if Ross was to go, who would you like to bring in? I mean, is there anybody that... I mean, Jack Ross is still the manager. We don't want to dwell on this too much, but is there anybody that actually would excite you? Is there any other options at the moment?
Some of the names I've seen mentioned today are ridiculous. So people talking about Robinson,
Goodwin.
Jim Goodwin, yeah. So people are saying we're accepting mediocrity by keeping Jack Ross, but they want to bring in these guys. I just don't get it.
Yeah. No, I don't get that at all. And I can see Grouse 1875 said here, who do you think Hibs would bring in if Ross goes? And he said the problem is in the entire attitude within the club and the fans. Only Hibs could be sitting fourth and wanting to sack their manager.
Correct.
Stop using fake accounts, mate.
So yeah, let's have a look. Are we getting any progression here? Let's see who else. Ross has said about the fact that he was beaten by Hearts, and it's not like he hasn't had money to spend. I mean, Stephen, he has been backed in the windows. I think that's one. I mean, I know the new signings are still bedding in, but we hope to see a bit of a progression from the last semi-final against Hearts. Was expected to see a reaction against St Johnstone.
100%, yeah. And I mean, I actually feel bad. Like, I've kept quiet on the Murphy thing because at the start, like maybe even 3-4 weeks ago, I was saying that Murphy was one of our best players. So last night, I'll give it as a poor game. And I'll just hope that he can't play against Rangers, which is probably a relief. So that gives him a week to think about his performance yesterday. But honestly, it's just. I've said to Callum, and we had this big discussion last week. Hibs fans, we do accept mediocrity, and I do think that a reaction yesterday would have maybe proved that the players have stepped up. The fact that we got beat against Hearts when, again, it's like that build-up, and it felt as though it was like the final against Rangers in the Scottish Cup, where you just couldn't see us losing. Like we had a couple of chances spurned, and Hearts had a couple of chances that just went past or whatever. And I still believed that we would actually win that game, and we never. And then it just set me back to Hecky, where we were 2-0 up against Ross County and drew 2-2 in the last 5 minutes. I honestly don't know where Hibs are at now, and unless we go out and hammer Rangers 4-0. Which will probably end up getting beat 4-0. I don't see any progression at all in the last 12 months.
So Scott Ferguson on Facebook said centre halves aren't good enough. Anyone disagree? Craig?
No, I've been very vocal about how I think Porteous will make us big money. About how I think that he is, destined to be a Scottish internationalist for a long time. And the last few weeks, I've got two mates in another group chat. Admittedly, they're Hearts fans, so they're not going to be complimentary, but they've said for a long time now that they don't see the hype with him. And I've tried to say, no, there is hype with him. He's a good player, but I don't see it anymore. I see him being another Hanlon, and that he'll never be good enough to make that step up to a bigger club than Hibs. Hanlon, I think it says a lot when, Saturday was his 450th game.
Yeah.
950 games between Hanlon and Stevenson. Says it all for me.
You mentioned on it earlier on, Callum, about how earlier on in the Porteous had, or a few years back, he had Effie beside him, and that's when we kind of got the best out of Porteous. I mean, do we need to see somebody beside Porteous? Is that the answer, or do we need, if we're sticking with a back three, do we need Hanlon, Porteous, and somebody else, or what do you see the sort of solution as?
I think it could. I mean, yeah, the one other in a back three with the two of them could work, but we need someone with a bit of physicality that'll dominate in the air. I know one of the names we've talked about is Declan Gallagher, and we're talking about Porteous. Look at Gallagher. He's 29 and he's only just kind of come on the scene the last couple of years. I think centre half tend.
Remember he was in the jail though.
Well, but I think centre halves in general do tend to develop a little bit later. I still think Porteous will be a good player for us, and we'll get good money for him at one point. But I think, I feel for Hanlon because, again, like Stevenson, he's been a good servant, and he improved his game at the start of the season again. And he started really well, and we thought, we're writing him off too soon. But certainly the last couple of months, he's not been the same player he was in the first half of the season. I just don't get why a centre half isn't physical. He's not physical enough.
I think he does sort of. I think the best time we see him is when he's going forward. I don't know why he's not had more of a career as a left back. I'll never get that, and I think that's maybe long term would have been his best position. I mean, you've seen the ball he put in for Irvin's header yesterday. I just sort of quick sort of few word answers on this, Stephen and Craig. I mean, me and Callum just sort of spoke about there, but Rob has asked on YouTube saying, what positions would you expect to see Jack Recross recruit before the end of the window? If you can have one more position, what do you think's the essential to get in? Stephen?
Head coach.
If it was only one, then it need to be a centre back. But we do need another striker as well.
I mean, I think we've seen, Luke Shaw's been getting a lot of praise down at Manchester United.
We'll do well to get him.
Manchester United go out and spend 20 million on Alex Telles, and Telles isn't playing, but he's just giving Shaw that kick up the arse and giving them that bit of competition. Hanlon and Porteous have got 34-year-old McGregor behind them. And who's had injuries and really isn't in contention to start on his sort of recent form. Craig,
I'd start him.
Would you start him?
I'd start McGregor on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Or Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever night it is. I would.
I would as well. To be fair, Porteous.
I don't think we can do any worse. At least McGregor will.
Chuck Morelos about. That's what you want to say.
He'll put his body on the line.
Yep.
He'll go and win those headers. He'll go and, the defence is just soft as shite. And, like you have said about how, maybe centre halves peak at a later point. There's not one player in that team that makes me look that if you're in the trenches, there's not one player in that team that I would look at and go, I'd want him beside me. Yeah. It's like they'd all be trying to hide behind each other.
And, I think we had that. Gray was that, but obviously he's finished. McGregor was that. I think a lot of the players
Fontaine, McGinn.
Yeah, players that Stubbs signed. Yeah, players that Stubbs signed.
And you look at Jack Ross's signings, the only one that's been a success has been this bit.
Yeah.
That's.
For the summer signings, the only one that's been successful is Nisbet.
I think Gogic has been a success overall.
I have to say, I know we'd maybe miss him in the midfield, but saying that I don't think we would, especially with Jackson Irvine there. I know you say about McGregor. I'd like to see Gogic at centre back. I think I think he's limited as a midfielder. I think there was times where he'll win the ball back and then he doesn't care what to do with it. He looks like a defender lost in midfield. I remember a game. I know I keep going back to Man United, but years ago, Man United were playing Wolves in the cup and tried Rio Ferdinand in midfield, and it was because it just sold Roy Keane, and it was a nightmare. Horrendous performance, got subbed. Gogic sort of reminds me of that. He's a bit awkward in midfield. I think he's better as a centre back. But
he was pressing. He was pressing at the corner of St Johnstone's box yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What the fuck? He's meant to be a defensive midfielder. Why the fuck is he pressing the left back at the edge of their box?
Yeah. So to me,
because that's where we lose the midfield because we don't win second balls.
And what did he do last year? What did he do last year for Hamilton? Was it not the most interceptions in the league?
Most interceptions, most ball. What do you call them? No retentions, like the ball
turnovers.
Aye, like he was up at
because he was allowed to play in that position,
just in front of the defence or in defence.
Yep. And win the ball and then give it to Newell and just get rid of it. Yeah,
we're playing him centre midfield next to Newell, who's great technically on the ball but hasn't got legs.
Yeah.
It's on these sort of tip points we'll be talking about. I can see Mark Mick23 has put, don't think a centre back is coming. Surely that's why Cadden is in. Cadden at right back to push McGinn over to centre back. We need a commanding. So this is CBX. I don't know. Is it C Banks? I don't know how that. 97. We need a commanding centre back like Jason Kerr or Declan Gallagher. I know Gallagher was one that you guys mentioned.
Yeah.
And Billy has sort of came back and replied to that. Gallagher's now 30s and maybe a bit old to be putting our hopes on. I mean, we spoke about a lot of people were saying Hanlon was written off and then finding out he was only 30. So I don't see why signing a 30-year-old and Declan
signing McGregor at 30.
True, yeah, that's a good point.
Players age differently. Look at Ibra.
Well, we're
36
at 30 with no knees.
Yeah.
And they went on to be one of the most important players for a period of time.
Del Boy 4 sort of said Gogic centre half and captain. I guess if you're dropping Hanlon, then you do have a question: who would be captain? He's putting Gogic forward for it. But yeah,
I get any of them the armband. Would rather go with it.
And it's a question from Joe here, who obviously was moderating the chat the other day and was on for the quiz yesterday. Has said, have they only been good servants because no one else is wanting them though? So that's a good point. I mean, Lewis Stevenson spoke the other day about how he had a couple offers, but and Hanlon I think he had offers when his contract was coming up, but it's not like they're players that we've had loads of interest for. Stephen.
No, have we really had any interest in a lot of our players? It's like when you play Football Manager. If I play Football Manager as Hibs, I never get any offers in for any of my players because they're all shite. It's like it's just I don't see why Hanlon's played 450 games. I don't see why Stevenson's played 500 games and why we've not had a better left back in until now. I don't know. It's just I think that Gallagher would be the ideal signing for me. I don't think that Jason Kerr's the answer because I think he's too much round about the same age as Porteous and he's not got enough experience to lead Porteous through a game. I think that Gallagher and Porteous is the only way that we would get big money for Porteous.
I would go and get Gallagher. I would tell him he'd be made captain. 2.5 year deal.
I don't know. I don't think. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's obviously done brilliantly for, but I mean, I was really impressed with John Guthrie for Livingston today, and he's obviously a few years younger. And sort of, Gallagher was a player that we should have got when he was leaving Livingston, not when he was leaving. Not when he's like sort of his contract's coming up at Motherwell. I think
it was funny. It was funny when that happened though, because there were two centre halves left Livingston at the same time. We know where the other one went, and he was the one that was meant to be the superstar.
Yeah, Halkett. All the Livingston fans got annoyed at me because I used to call him Hockett rather than Halkett. He's got an L in it, which I forgot, and I will spell it wrong on Twitter as well.
That's a dyslexia though. So.
Yeah, that's got a dyslexia, dyspraxia. I've got a lot. Aye. So next up, so it doesn't get much easier. I'll get the graphic up here. 2 seconds. There we go. Match preview. Rangers. So we have Rangers on Wednesday night. Rangers, of course, top of the league by God knows how many points now. 23 points currently. Obviously, Celtic do have the 3 games in hand, but 23 points.
Which they probably won't win anyway. So,
and ironically, didn't have a game this weekend.
25 games played, 22 wins, 3 draws, and 0 losses. Callum, undefeated so far this season, Rangers.
Until Wednesday.
Do you know what? Right, that would be a very,
of course
very,
it would.
very fucking Hibs thing to do for
of course
us
it would.
to beat them on Wednesday night.
Yep.
Yeah. Stephen, you kind of went back there. You don't seem to share that optimism.
I genuinely can't see it. Nah, I think that we're actually got to get hammered. Absolutely hammered.
But that never happens when you expect it.
Well, maybe this is a like if I say that we're going to get hammered, then we'll actually win. And then on Wednesday, I'll quite happily turn and say I'm wrong.
Right.
Rangers' sort of recent form, look at the last 5 games. They beat St Mirren 2-0 away. Obviously, the game against Celtic 1-0. 2-1 away at Aberdeen, a good win. And then 5-0 against Ross County. But the game before that, which I did see quite the majority of, 1-1 with Motherwell. Craig, did you see much of that game at all? Or did anybody see much of that game at all?
Nah.
No?
Yeah.
Well, I heard that Motherwell played quite well, admittedly.
I saw a lot of chat saying that the Rangers goal was actually offside as
It
well.
was, yeah, it was.
Callum, you said this other game. What was your thoughts on sort of the way Motherwell was set up and how they kind of stopped Rangers?
So, similar to if you go back a wee bit before that when Rangers got beat by St Mirren in the Cup. Rangers don't like being pressed, so I think we need to go. That's how we need to do it. Whether we will or not, I think what's likely for us to see is for us to sit deep and soak it up. But I think, and we know our pal Stuart likes to talk about getting at them. I think you've got to press Rangers. That's what we should be doing on Wednesday.
And what about the? I know we went for the 3-5-2, and we kind of spoke earlier, Craig, about how it was working. Is that something you can see continuing on Wednesday night, or would you see it back to the 4-4-2?
Probably go back to the 4-4-2.
What would you do if you were in charge?
Resign.
In terms of tactics,
I mean, it's pretty clear that Cadden's not fit.
right?
It's pretty clear that Boyle is not at it just now. We can't play Murphy.
So you're left with Dre Wright as your wide option.
I'd maybe be tempted to go with a diamond.
Right.
And try and suffocate the middle of the park where they get most of their joy.
Would that not leave us quite exposed with Tavernier and
Tavernier,
bombing forward?
Doig seemed to do alright against them last time. With the flexibility that you've got, you could easily have, Newell, if he's fit, dropping in one to make it a sort of left wing back at times if needed. I know Stephen was quite the champion for Newell to be left wing back at times. But I'd probably go with a diamond with the usual back four because let's face it, nobody's going to fucking replace them anyway. I'd have McGregor in for either Porteous or Hanlon, whatever one. Gogic sitting in front with Hallberg and Newell as the 2 wide our men, with Irvin at the tip and Nisbet and Gollan up front.
Ooh, Gollan.
I want to see Gollan getting a chance. If Gollan's not getting a chance in this window, just get fucking rid of him and let him go and have a career. Let him go and do what Ollie Shaw's doing at Ross County. Let him go and play games because he's not fucking playing games here. Same with Dabrowski. He wasn't brought back to sit on the bench. Nah, you know what? He was fucking right. He was brought back to sit in the stand.
That's a strange one, that one.
I think it had to be done, though. Did we want Samson on the bench?
Well, we had Samson on the bench for however many games and it wasn't an issue.
I know, but... And I suppose at the minute, it doesn't matter anyway because the leagues are... League 1 and 2 are off anyway, aren't they? So...
Stephen, we've seen St Johnstone have a bit of success against us with their... Initially, until they started hitting us more in the counter, their full-backs sitting a bit deeper and kind of... is that something you think Hibs could maybe get a bit of success of to kind of nullify Tavernier and Barisic, or and what do you feel? Where do you feel Hibs can? In the second part of the question, where do you feel Hibs can hurt Rangers?
No, I think as much as like Stuart goes on about it, I'd say that we do need to press them. I'd say that when we look back to the Stubbs era and the Lennon era, we used to always like press Rangers, and we used to score a load of goals against them, and that's what works. Like Rangers have been the same for years and years. Like you attack them and they start to panic because Tavernier's better going forward than he is at defending, and he's been that way since he joined Rangers. And like you just take the final, for example, like it just shows like Stokes took it past them and then scored in the first minute or 2 minutes. So I think that we do need to go and press them. I would start Doig. I think that if Newell's fit, put him out on the left. McGuinness is obviously starting to become like fully fit, so I would give him a chance in the midfield and push Gogic back into defence, like you said, put him centre back. But the problem for me is how many corners Rangers get. Like Rangers are getting an average about 9-10 corners a game, and how badly we're defending set pieces. That's where my reservations are.
But I mean, we've not been horrendous at defending set. We're actually quite good at defending set pieces throughout the season. I was quite surprised that that's where we were getting punished, because I think we've been all right. It's not something we've been punished. I can't really think of many other times we've been punished.
Because it's just because it's fresh, highlighted because it was the two goals back to back like that, and it was so meekly defended. But you're right, in general, it's not been bad.
I think though that our best defensive record came in the first 8 weeks of the season when we weren't conceding goals. But then you look at all the 1-1 draws and the 0-0 games, and we're not getting points up front either. And it's a transition between the midfield that we're lacking because we're getting overrun in midfield, regardless of who we play. We got overrun in midfield against Ross County, and we got beat for it.
We spoke about the options we've now got in midfield. Craig, is it going to take a bit of time to try and find the right balance in terms of who we've got in the midfield and who we play and who does what role?
Given that we could almost field a team of midfielders, we need to start looking at who's going to be playing where and what system they're going to be playing in, and the ones that don't fit go. I know there's rumours that Mallin's going to go away on loan to St Mirren, which is, I think for him is a good thing because he's not getting anywhere with us just now. But all depends on what system we're going to play. Jack Ross seems to have a hard on for being able to start in a 3-4-3 and transition to a 3-5-2 into a 4-4-2, and then maybe look at going into a 4-4-3, 4-3-3, and then playing a hybrid 5-2-1-2 with a wing back and a centre attack and mid dropping into centre defensive mid. Like, pick a fucking system and play it. Like, stop this, because I called it as well as soon as it happened. When Doidge came on and we went 4-4-2, we would get exposed in the wide areas.
Yeah.
And where did the third goal come from?
And that's when, like say, the full-backs, the wing-backs started to press further forward when the formation changed.
Because they didn't need to be worrying about our wing-backs pressing forward, because we never had wing-backs. We didn't have full-backs. We had fuck all.
Yeah. And Callum, I mean, we spoke about the midfielder. Would you feel, and one of the criticisms towards Jack Ross has always sort of been he doesn't know his strongest 11. Do you feel he maybe does know strong 11, but it's just those players are fit, or do you think he's still figuring that out?
I think he's still figuring it out, especially that we've just added 2 more names to what he can do. I think he's maybe got an idea of what he would like it to be, but it's going to be about getting that balance right. Scott Allen's going to be like a new signing in there as well. If Scott Allen's fit and firing, he's a starter. He's straight in at number 10. So it's then working out how you balance the rest of the team. Will you be able to get Gogic, Irvin, Newell, Allen all in? It's not possible. And my worry is he tries, what Craig's saying about different formations. He'll try and play a formation just to fit all these guys in. And it isn't actually the best formation we should be playing. I kind of feel like he's been trying to play this 4-3-3 so he can play Murphy at the minute. So obviously he's not got that problem on Wednesday night. So
right, here we go.
So again, we'll finish up with the Rangers game then. What's your guys' score prediction for the game? Callum, start from yourself.
I better stay as positive as I can be. I'll say, oh God, Head and Heart. Heart says 1 each. Head says 2-0 Rangers.
Stephen?
4-0 Rangers.
Craig?
I never want to say it's getting beat, so I'll go for a draw.
I'm going to go 2-0 Hibs. Come on, we're going to do it.
Oh,
First
fucking
defeat of
hell.
the season's coming. It's the most Hibs thing ever. I remember we beat them at
Stick.
Ibrox and then we played Hamilton and we got fucked. Ridiculous. The most Hibs thing
Stick
ever.
your
We're going to take the cup.
positivity
And we're
right
gonna,
up your arse.
we're going to, honestly, it's frustrating. It's so frustrating.
I go back to, what was it? Was it Calderwood's first victory, Craig?
I think it was his second or third game. We went to Ibrox and won 3-0.
Did not lose his first 2 games?
I'm sure one of the first games was against Hearts as well. I'm sure we lost to Hearts on the Sunday and then went out and beat Rangers on the Wednesday.
Yeah. And then
Liam Miller, God rest his soul.
And then was it not back when we got pumped to 7-0 by Rangers at Christmas? We then went and won a derby 3 days later or something.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then there was we beat Rangers 3-2 at Ibrox. Slivka scored the winner, and then a few days later we played Hamilton Easter Road and we got beat 3-0 and we left early.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. Hibs will do this. They'll get knocked out of a cup and then they'll beat Rangers. Rangers are losing their first domestic game on Wednesday. Heard it here first. 2-0 Hibs. Come
Well,
on.
I always say if we'd beaten Ross County in the League Cup, we wouldn't have won the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's a Diddy Cup anyway. No one wants it. This is all just warm up for the main cup and a couple of when we get this.
Great, another semi-final
for more heartache.
Semi-final.
Another semi-final for us to probably. Rangers and Celtic will go out, Hearts will go out, Aberdeen will go out, Livingston will go out. It'll be like us, Dunfermline, Hamilton, and
Gretna 2006.
We'll get Dunfermline and Stephen Whittaker will score the winner.
We'll get Dunfermline and John Collins will come back, play Damon Gray up front, and we'll get done again.
So we'll
fucking shitebags, man. A lot of them.
We'll finish up there. A bit of a longer podcast this week, but obviously there's a lot to get through.
Can't wait to see the feedback for this one.
Hopefully folk enjoyed it. We've tried to do this as balanced as possible and get a bit of everybody's opinion. So what you guys got planned for the rest of your Sunday night? Callum, starting with yourself.
Whatever the wife wants to watch on telly, I'd have thought.
Nice. Stephen?
Nothing, just TV, I think.
Anything
Usual.
good?
Fuck knows, I don't know what's on. I don't watch TV, so see what's happening.
I've got the last episode of that Disenchantment, like the Simpsons Futurama sort of medieval sort of thing is on Netflix. So yeah, that came out last week and just sort of been. It's one of those shows that I would have quite happily binged it. I mean, Rebecca would have happily just binged it, but we've been a bit disciplined in watching 1 or 2 episodes here and there. But we've only got one left, so we're going to watch that tonight and obviously get the podcast up as well, the podcast version of this. Craig, your plans for the night?
I'm going to go and get a pint of bleach and jump in the bath with a toaster. It's only a football team. It's only a football team. Come on. I'm going to go and take my rage out on some unsuspecting, probably teenage boys on FIFA.
That sounds bad.
On FIFA, right? Let's get that fucking clear.
See, just before we actually go off, Callum,
sure.
go and fire up your treadmill. Okay, go dance.
No, we'll keep that for a Hibs talk quiz night.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna finish up there. I have to say, I'm looking forward to the game on Wednesday. I've only got 4 days this week. I am working Thursday, but kind of when it gets to the Hibs game, that'll be only 1 day left, and then I'm off. My manager's been quite nice. She's put me on, can put on my hours at the beginning of the week, off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Week after that, I've got a week's annual leave. Nothing to do because COVID, but I'm looking forward to a week off, a week to chill out and kind of, and then like I say the Monday after that as well. My manager's put me off, so kind of 11 days off, which is gonna be nice. Only using 5 days annual leave. One of the benefits of the longer shifts. Yeah, plenty of Verdansk. I probably get some, and get maybe get another quiz put together because I think that worked quite well yesterday. So maybe a bit of extra content, get a quiz put together with my time off as well. And get
you need a clear winner as well. Like that was amateur stuff.
I know. Maybe I should have done a tiebreaker. Lessons learned. You make mistakes and you learn.
There would have been a clear winner if you were on though, Craig. Eh?
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
Would have been a clear winner if Stephen was on because he would have cheated on the eBay round and just went on his phone like he did when we tested it.
It was one question.
Right, we're going to finish up there, folks. Thank you for everyone who joined us in the live chat. Thank you for everyone who got their questions in. Hopefully, sort of venting in the chat and hearing us sort of get our expression of his help. I know it was difficult last night. I have to say big thanks to Callum. Callum came up with an idea for the group chat. We kind of banned all talk about Hibs, and we've got a playlist, and we kind of added songs, and we all talked about music, and it was nice to kind of take our minds off it. So thank you to Callum for that. It was a great idea. So hopefully you guys found something to take your mind off it.
I just woke up at 8:30 in the morning with like 500 messages.
Yeah, and none of it was
I looked at my phone at about maybe, I don't know, 9:30, and that was like 4:50, and I was like, shoot.
We signed someone.
Like, surely not. And because that was the last chat I was in, it just took me straight back in. So I was literally like that. For fucking ages scrolling all the way back through it.
Aye. So, like I say, we'll finish up there. Thanks again for listening, folks. Follow us at HFC Talk. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, all that good stuff. We'll be back to look back at the Rangers game